The Podcast's Empire, podcast mastery for women in business.
I'm going to share something with you today that is going to blow your mind, and it is a website called Answer the Public. What Answer the Public is a free social listening tool to see what keywords and phrases people on search engines like Google and Bing. It uses auto-suggest to uncover this related information, providing additional data, including search popularity, search volume, and predicted cost per click. Now, how to use Answer the Public to create better content. If you're listening to this today, Answer the Public will help solve content creation ideas. We all get stuck as entrepreneurs in the online space of, I'm not quite sure what other content to create. I'm not quite sure what my audience wants to listen to. I'm not quite sure what my audience is searching for on these search engines like Google. And when you align your content with what people are searching for, content marketing in its purest form is creating something which people will find interesting and adds value to the wider conversation. Content that is useful and engaging is likely to be shared, attracting more traffic, which is why content marketers should dedicate plenty of time to producing high quality output that will cut through the noise. Now, effective content marketing hinges on creating useful, engaging material, but even the best article will go unread if it's answering a question that no one is asking. And before you start brainstorming topics and pitching titles, you need to know exactly, listen to this, you need to know exactly what your target audience is looking for. And this is where Answer the Public comes in. Now, what does Answer the Public actually do? Now, Google's autocomplete feature is a powerful tool for discovering what people are searching for, having built up a database from millions of searches. And it will predict what you're going to ask based on the information that's already been entered. So if we do go to Google and we type in, start a podcast, and it will auto-populate all the top searches, right? Now, if we scroll down to the area that says people also ask, this is what your ideal audience is typing into Google. Where can I, how do I find, etc. So if you can create content about what your ideal audience is searching for, you will get comments when you post of, I needed to hear that today, exactly what I was looking for. You just solved my problem. I've always been thinking that. And then you know you have evidence that you are speaking to your ideal audience. So when you are on Google and you go to the section, when you scroll down a bit, where it says people also ask, you've got these little arrows. So if I typed in start a podcast, it comes down to how much does it cost to start a podcast? Do podcasts make money? Where do I start a podcast in Australia? Is there a free way to start a podcast? And if you click on these, it will give you some more information. If you click on there, it will give you some more information. Now, see how that went from 4 or 5 arrows to 8 or 9 now? Because the more you click down, then the more searches and search results it is going to give you. Now, imagine if you took all of these content ideas here and created content around them to speak to your ideal audience and solve their problems with the solutions that you have, whether it's a product, a service, or an opportunity. You could create something, a video about how long should a podcast be, and you can create that content, and your ideal audience will know you're speaking exactly to them, because this is a searched term. This is a searched headline. This is a search result. Now, this is just Google autocomplete, right? You can just go down and keep on going, and it's going to give you so many options of creating content. You will have never-ending content to speak to your ideal audience and solve their problems just by getting that on Google. Now, where Answer the Public comes into it, now this is a website by Neil Patel. Answer the Public's keyword research tool also generates suggestions based on prepositions such as like, versus, with, and without, as well as alphabetical search, which adds letters to the original inquiry, listing the most common queries which use each letter. Now, also, Answer the Public have top of the topics, sometimes referred to as Ask the Public, will give you plenty of potential topics, but you don't need hundreds of ideas, just a few great ones. Now, separating the wheat from the chaff is the next step by choosing the topics which will provide you with the most benefit. Now, not every question being asked will require you to create content answering it. This is really important to identify the searches that have value for your website and are likely to engage with what you have to offer. So step number one is to select a relevant topic. Now, the big benefit of Answer the Public is that you get, I think, 3 free searches. There is a paid version as well. So you've got 3 free daily searches. You can go down to, and you can even go to Google, YouTube, or Bing. So if you come over to what's being searched on Google, now this is going to create a highly trafficked piece of content where you want to earn a few juicy backlinks to your website, service, and product pages. So let's take a look how it works. When you go to the search bar, I'm going to type in what I do and what I think people are searching for, because I teach people how to start a podcast. So I'm going to type in start a podcast, because I believe that a lot of people might be typing that into Google because they want to start a podcast. I'm going to look in Australia, and I'm going to look in English, and I'm going to hit search. Now, this is where your mind is going to be blown away, because it is generating results that people have searched, and you can create content around this to speak to your ideal audience. We're going to scroll down here. Now, you can also save the image. You can download this as a CSV file. What I like to do, because I batch create, is once a month, I'll go into Answer the Public. I'll do my research of what my ideal audience might be searching for and get those results, and then pick the top ones and create content around it. And I do that by doing this kind of search and downloading it to a CSV file. Now, you'll have key indicators here. We've got the dark orange is highly searched, the mid orange is average searched, and the low faded orange indicator is lower search. Let's scroll down. So this is the search term I put in, start a podcast. Cost per click is $1.72, and the search volume is 390. That may not mean anything to you at the moment. The more you actually get into Answer the Public, that will help you along. So as you can see, we've got why, will, are, can, how, what, when, where, which, and who. This is what your ideal audience is typing into Google, right? Can start a podcast. How start a podcast? Why should start a podcast? Why launch a podcast? How to start a podcast with no audience? Is starting a podcast hard? Right? So these are the questions. So 58 over 104. So that is great. You can select all of the top content titles here and create content around that. So here's a great one here. Why start a podcast for your business? Now, if my audience is people who are women in business wanting to start a podcast, if I was to create content with the title of Why Start a Podcast for Your Business, do you think that would be answering a question that is commonly Googled? Yes, I do. So that is more likely to speak to my ideal audience and get engagement. This is never-ending content creation ideas. Now we can scroll down even more and we can go through can, for, is, near, to, with, and without, right? These are all your prepositions. This is visualization here. So can anyone start a podcast on Spotify? Start a podcast for free, starting a podcast with friends, starting a podcast with no money. These are commonly searched terms in Google. Now, you want to be able to create content around this. Now, if we scroll down even more on Answer the Public, then we're going to see even more results. And this comes up with versus. We've got starting a blog versus podcast, starting a podcast versus YouTube. We've got start a podcast on Apple. We've got or section. Start a podcast and make money, how to start a blog on podcast. And we've got versus. So is starting a podcast a good idea? Again, if you take these really highly searched terms and create content around it, you can see how valuable this is going to be to speak to your ideal audience and have never-ending content. What's great about Answer the Public is that they will actually put this in alphabetical order as well. So as you can see, A, B, C. Now, if we were to view an image, say, under the C letter, this will have, under C, it's got start a podcast checklist, start a podcast channel, starting a podcast cost, starting a podcast club, starting a comedy podcast. As you can see, I can go on forever. Never-ending content ideas. You can go into Answer the Public once a month if you're a batch creator, get all of your information, and then create your Facebook posts, your TikTok videos, your LinkedIn articles, your blogs, and speak to your ideal audience. You could create your podcast from these search terms as well. It goes all the way through the alphabet here. So you have never-ending content. Use the ones that are best relevant for your ideal audience, for your product, your service, or your opportunity. You've even got related to start a podcast. So it could be start a podcast on Spotify, start a podcast for free. These are all related. If you're running ads, this comes in very handy as well. And you can also search keywords on Answer the Public as well. So as you can see, it also gives you search volume and cost per click as well. So when you go through and do your comparisons, you'll have a really good indicator of what is going to be worthy content and what is going to be relevant to your ideal audience. Good luck with your content creation and really leverage Answer the Public so you can speak to your ideal audience. Make sure that you check out the show notes for a link to give you full access to our latest resource. Thank you for joining the Podcast Empire. We'll see you in the pod.
The Podcast Empire, podcast mastery for women in business.